Hey guys, welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Unlike most videos with build guides, I'm actually going to do an opinionated piece on a weapon that's causing a bit of a controversy in the Crucible, the Chaperone. As much as I wish it wasn't a problem, it's slowly becoming one, if not already is, and I want to give my thoughts and feelings on something that's pretty much divided a lot of the online Destiny 2 community. As far as background gameplay, it's going to feature clips way back from when I was on Xbox to this weekend at Trials. Just kind of showcasing different playstyles and how it handles on both console and computer, and mouse and keyboard and controller. And overall, I'm just going to give my thoughts on the weapon and what I think should be done about it, as someone who has literally mained it since Forsaken and has over 10,000 kills with the weapon. I feel like I have quite the unique perspective on how it actually handles, and my thoughts and feelings on it might be pretty unique, so stay tuned. Starting off, why I'm even making this video. Longtime viewers are well aware that Chaperone is and has been my favorite go-to weapon for PvP since its reintroduction in Forsaken, and in my opinion it's the best shotgun in the game, but only recently has it solidified itself at the top of usage charts. Looking at past Trials reports, any short to mid-range maps have had Chaperone as one of, if not the top special weapon, and for good reason. But how did Chaperone get here after aggressive frames have dominated the PvP meta for years, and what should be done about it? Keep in mind, this video is entirely opinionated, so if you disagree with anything I say, that's totally fine. I'm just giving my thoughts as someone who has mained it for years. Again, PC, console, mouse and keyboard controller, casual, competitive, trials, all of that. With that being said, let's start from the beginning. So overall, Chaperone has stayed relatively constant since its reintroduction into Destiny 2. There have been slight changes here and there, but there hasn't been any kind of significant buff or rework that propelled Chaperone into the PvP spotlight like Bungie tends to do with certain exotics or archetypes of weapons. With this in mind, why hasn't Chaperone always been where it is now if it's always been about as deadly as it currently is? The simple answer is aggressive frames and other shotties. Chaperone's benefit was always outshined by an aggressive frame that could kill from shorter ranges with a body shot and a much higher ease of use. It seemed like a better option. Even with the insane buff that Roadborne is, many people still felt that it was just better to use aggressive frames like Mindbenders or more recently Fellwinners. Even as someone who uses Chaperone religiously, I definitely saw the benefits of these weapons, and I've definitely used them at times when Chaperone just simply wasn't cutting it, especially when they were more dominant. Plus, with other perk combinations and slottable mods, there was definitely a case for using a weapon that could kill from far less when Roadborne was considered, but had a much better ease of use and enabled a much more aggressive playstyle. With all this being said, Chaperone was and still is disgustingly good in the Crucible. A base 10+ meter kill range is nothing to scoff at, and with Roadborne active, it gets even crazier, not to mention the generous buffs to every set on the gun that Roadborne gives. Despite that, shotguns like Mindbenders and like Fellwinners simply outshine it due to their ease of use and decent trade-off with kill range. This pretty much drove a lot of people from using weapons like slugs, and specifically Chaperone, using just more ease of access weapons that required less skill and had a similar payoff. Again, that God roll Mindbenders was what everyone wanted. When Fellwinners came out, they basically gave everyone the best current shotgun in the game when you consider the ease of use on the weapon. That is, until Season 15. At the start of Season of the Lost, aggressive frame shotguns received a substantial nerf across the board, essentially limiting all kill ranges from about 8.3, 8.5 meters to 7 meters for consistency. Something like this might not seem significant, but it's arguably the nail in the coffin for aggressive frame shotguns specifically, as consistency was again already an issue at times. Plus, this slight nerf puts most players into melee range for consistent kills, which itself is the definition of inconsistent. All in all, those who wanted to keep rocking aggressive frames or other shotguns like Fellwinner, lightweight frames, precision frames, needed to play extremely close, which isn't as viable due to a multitude of additions in Destiny 2, specifically stuff like Shadow Dive and Dune Marchers, which both punish hyper-aggressive players, or in Doom Marcher's case, just punish you for being in the same lobby. All these combined mean that you have to be way more aggressive to pull off using these special weapons, and with the added risk for overcommitting now with their shortened kill range, this all led players during the first few weeks of the season to experiment with new shotguns, specifically slug shotguns. Slug shotguns have always been good, but again, their headshot requirement really drove players away from them. But with all these factors, their ability to kill from a range was perfect, and universally, slugs kept players well out of most melee ranges. So out of all the slug shotguns available then, why Chaperone? The simple answer is because it's the best slug shotgun hands down. Chaperone not only has a disgusting base 10 meter plus kill range and a very generous sight to match, making headshots relatively easy to pull off. Once a headshot was actually gained, you receive Roadborne, which in my opinion is the best weapon perk in the entire game. Second only to maybe Master of Arms when it was first introduced on Recluse. It's that good. Literally buffing everything from the weapon handling to range and turning everything within a 15 meter radius into a point-click adventure for Chaperone. This combined with Chaperone's near limitless skill ceiling, and well, you have yourselves a new meta. But with this in mind, why didn't things like other slugs get chosen? Or just different shotties like Lord of Wolves or Duality? Again, Chaperone is simply better. Something like Lord of Wolves simply doesn't have the potency it unfortunately had seasons prior, and it takes 2 bursts to kill at range comparable to non-Roadborne Chaperone. Duality is a great mix of slug and non-slug shotguns out there. But if you're going to use a slug, you might as well use Chappy, and with its hipfire being way less accurate and less range than aiming down sights with a regular shotgun like Wristwalker, Fellwinter, or Fractheus, again, if you're going to commit to using a slug, Chaperone's the best option, otherwise there are better options out there. Now I definitely don't mean to say that these other shotguns are bad by any means. Fellwinter is still incredibly good, as well as stuff like Lord of Wolves, Duality, Fractheus. They're all still incredibly potent, but Chaperone just has a lot of benefits, especially in this sandbox, that enable a top tier level of play. While some legendaries like Heritage might compete with Chaperone at its base form, along with having some potent weapon perks to support it, Chaperone's base range and the fact that Roadborne even exists easily make it the best weapon perk in the game, and therefore the best shotgun in the game, including slugs and non-slugs. I wish it wasn't as cut and dry, but literally once you get Roadborne, Chaperone is the best shotgun in the entire game. And believe me, I really enjoyed when Chaperone was more of a hidden gem to those willing to actually try and learn the weapon, but overall, the truth is that Chaperone has always been incredible as you are seeing it now. It's just that now, players have been forced to ditch their previous shotguns like Fellwinter and experiment, and it wasn't too long before everyone really found out what Chaperone was truly capable of. So what's my take on Chaperone then? Is it just the victim of the perfect sandbox, or is it simply overpowered and deserves a nerf? Honestly, a bit of both. In my opinion, Chaperone has always been extremely good, like I've said 8 times so far, but Roadborne is extremely crazy, not to mention how generous the sights on Chaperone actually are. Chaperone has a skill ceiling that a lot of players I've seen don't even yet fully realize, like how to time your shots in the air to get near 100% accuracy, or hip firing with Chaperone being way more accurate than you would ever think. But it's currently topping weapon charts in competitive play and trials, so even if most players aren't using the gun to its full potential or simply don't know how to actually use it in a much better way, it's still good enough to rock over weapons they might have had years of experience with. I love Chaperone, but instead of changing an entire sandbox and bringing up other shotties like Fellwinter to their previous levels of lethality, which, to be clear, nobody wants, I think the best thing for Chaperone is some kind of nerf, as much as it pains me to say it. Personally, I feel the best thing for Chaperone is to reduce an individual aspect of its lethality or its ease of use, or possibly some combination of the two. I seriously doubt Roadborne is ever going to go away on the gun, so our next best thing is to either increase its learning curve and required skill, or simply make its already top tier perk less potent while still maintaining the identity of the Chaperone as a whole. Here are a few examples of what I mean. One idea is simply reducing the bullet cone on Chaperone, requiring a much more precise shot to actually get a kill and take advantage of Roadborne in a similar state. For those who don't know, Chaperone's sights are extremely misleading. What I mean when I say they're extremely generous is to get a headshot, you don't actually need the center dot to line up perfectly. In fact, as long as it's within the inner ring of the sight, you're set most of the time. By decreasing its cone of fire and requiring a much more precise shot similar to that of a sniper rifle, you dramatically increase its required skill while maintaining the overall feel and benefit of using the weapon. Of course, another obvious nerf would be to simply take away or reduce Roadborne's buff to kill range. The additional effects to weapon stats are already extremely noticeable, and while the shortened kill range with Roadborne would hurt Chappy overall, I definitely feel wouldn't end the viability of it. And personally speaking, if I read a patch note saying that Bungie was nerfing Roadborne's kill range, I would still use the gun without a second thought. By bringing its potency back a bit, it puts it more in line with other slug shotguns, but still gives its exotic perk that special difference that rewards dedicated users. These are just a few examples, but I can think of a few more easily, like a much heavier ADS time requiring more commitment to shots at those further ranges, allowing Roadborne to enable a more aggressive playstyle once a headshot's made, rather than aggressive plays being able to be done right out of the gate. Basically having Chaperone start off as a laning weapon rather than an aggressive one, and then having Roadborne functionally turn it into a more aggressive option. without range differences being so dramatic. Oh, and the Panama Ravine ornament giving it +1 kill-meter range should also go away regardless, as I'm not a fan of cosmetics giving a competitive edge in Crucible. As much as I love the gun, the last thing that I want for it is to run loose in PvP unchecked and recreate another Mindbender, Fellwinter, Reeswalker meta. Again, Chaperone isn't always topping the charts for special weapons, especially with longer range maps like this weekend with Widow's Court, but with the majority of maps being close to mid-range, and even on longer ones having shotguns still not be a completely unviable option, Chaperone has the ability to dominate in most scenarios, and no other shotgun really comes close to that. All in all, I definitely don't want to see my favorite PvP weapon get nerfed, especially after years of use and dedication. But simply put, the perfect sandbox enabled this weapon to truly shine, and yes, something does need to be done about it. As always, I never want nerfs to ruin the viability of anything, whether it's a weapon, ability, or a super. But I believe either an increase in skill required to perform successfully, or simply less of a benefit to Roadborne should be implemented. Again, I don't know what the best option for a change to Chaperone would be, because at the end of the day, I'm just a guy who likes playing video games. I'll leave that up to the devs at Bungie. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry again for the delayed video. I wanted to take my time with this one, and work has been pretty crazy lately. But don't worry, I have a few other build guides in the works currently. You can expect them pretty soon. As always, I greatly appreciate any feedback down below in the comments, as well as suggestions for future videos. Be sure to like and subscribe for more Destiny 2 content like this, and I'll see you in the next one.